Here to the ring, Miniature Hereford, J.W. Morris, Julian Johnson. If you guys could head up to the ring. We have about 5 minutes till we begin. So if you could mosey up this way, that would be great.
I think agriculture is at the center of everything we do here at Farm Credit, and so the importance is we really do focus on that. We're not focused on commercial banking or business or deposits. We're here to lend money to farmers and ranchers right here in our territory.
We use an operating line every year, and knowing that they are willing to sit down and talk about buying a piece of land is extremely important. And Farm Credit, they understand our business, they understand what we're doing out here, they understand what we're trying to do and where we're going.
Yeah, I think the importance of having a lender like Farm Credit, like us, is that we know agriculture. And so we're only focused on ag and ranching and rural America. We're not focused on, other outside issues. And so we know it, we live it, and we're here to lend to it.
Our order for today, we're going to start with catch a calves, and we're moving into our market animals. After market, we will be doing our breeding animals, senior showmanship, junior showman, or intermediate showmanship, and then the end will be ship. So that's the order for today. We need our catch a calf, and I see she's in the holding. We are still waiting on our Miniature Herefords. J.W. and Julian Johnson needs to be heading to the ring. Let me introduce our judge for today. We have Colby Hale from Casper, Wyoming. He is the judging coach for Casper, Wyoming. He started his career at Casper, Wyoming as a student, moving on to CSU. Finished up his master's degree at UW, where he was also in the judging coaches. So we want to give him a big warm welcome for today. So our first young lady in the ring has the catch a calf. The catch a calf comes to us from National Western Stock Show, where it's a program. They catch a calf, they learn about maintaining the calf, growing the calf, feeding the calf. It's a great program.
Well, good morning again, everybody. This is a cool way to start off a show here this morning. Young lady's got her a National Western Catch-A-Calf that I think she's got a good project here. Especially, I've had the opportunity to be a part of that Catch-A-Calf program for the last couple of years. I got to judge it once in Denver, and then on top of that, my family's helped sponsor some, and so I'm a believer in this program. I think it's an awesome program, and like I said, I think that young lady's got her a nice project. For this stage in the game, I think body condition-wise, that calf is in a safe place. That steer's pretty darn good looking, and I will tell you that I wish that young lady the best of luck as she goes on into January, and hopefully she gets along good there within that program. If you would, please congratulate our lone Catch-A-Calf exhibitor here this morning.
Our grand champion belt buckle today is sponsored by Jim Kelly. If you win a belt buckle today, you can take a picture of it. It is coming back to me until I get thank you cards. They need to be written out correctly. I have the note who they need to go to, so please see me afterwards for your belt buckle. And thank you, Mr. Jim Kelly, for sponsoring our belt buckle today. In the ring currently, we have J.W. Morris and Julian Johnson. They are showing miniature Herefords. Aracel Colbert, we need you in the holding ring. You are in next. That will be followed up with Shannon Sufflin and Lily Vermeer.
Just got one class of these mini Herefords here, and a good class. We've got two useful cattle in here as far as I'm concerned. The young man steer that I'm going to use to win, for me, that calf probably just proportions out and balances just a shade better, not to mention I think there's more just width and spread in terms of that steer's top. I think there's just more product in him working down his back, and not to mention I think actually out of his shoulder he's probably just a little more comfortable. He collects his top line just a shade better. You know, if we change that calf, we probably level his hip out there just a little bit and make him just a little sleeker there up front. That's actually where the young man steer in second here. Cash is his name, I found out. That's a good calf in that regard. That's where he beats the one that ends up winning this class. Is to me, he is sleeker up front. He's flatter there about his neck shape. And actually, when we get him set into motion, I think these cattle are different structurally because he's softer down in terms of his pastern. And that calf's got more just length of body. For me, he doesn't have just quite as much muscle. That steer needs to be just a little beefier there right over his loin and specifically there out of his upper hip. But two nice projects for these young people. Once again, I wish them the best of luck because they continue to show these guys. Congratulate our mini Hereford exhibitors, please.
First place in that class goes to J.W. Morris, Jesse Morris. Second place in that class goes to Julian Johnson. Our next class has one entry. Aerosol Colburn.
Single entry here, and I think a good project here once again. And I don't know this county's rules as far as selling them or whatnot, but I'll be fully honest with you. I actually think this heifer might even make a better breeding heifer than she does a market heifer because I think she's really sound structured. I think she lines out and she balances pretty good. That heifer's hip and her hind leg design are really well, or are designed really well. That heifer, to me, probably as a market heifer, needs just a little more pry and just a little more substance and muscle, but that's a nice heifer. That's just a good kind of cattle in my opinion, so congratulations to you, young lady. Wish you the best of luck with her.
First place in that class is Aerosol Colburn. Next coming in is Shannon Sufflin and Lily Vermeer. I can't even speak. Vermeer. Next class, we need Nathan, we need Connor Price, Dylan, and Taylor Thomas Tree.
good set of steers here, and I think a pair of cattle that, once again, to me are just pretty darn useful. Between the pair of them, I'll be fully honest with you, I don't know as if either of them are just quite done yet, but I do think they're still good cattle that might just need a shade more time. But the Brockle steer that's going to go ahead and win, to me, that's a nice project here. Once again, he beats the red one just in the fact that he's a shade better there in terms of his rib shape, and especially the lower third of his body, I think, is just a little more proportional. There's more skeletal width and just more stoutness of feature in that steer, and I still think that calf, when we get him off from the side, balances here quite well. That's a good steer to go ahead and lead us off. The red steer that's going to come in second, there is more stretch and more performance and more growth in that steer. We have two cattle that weigh about the same. One of them has a frame score different in him, and to me, that calf, the reason being that they weigh the same is there's not quite as much just punch and not quite as much muscle in the red steer. We just need to open that calf up just a shade more, give him just a little more just power. But a good pair of them again, I think good, useful as exhibitors, if you would, please.
Our next class in, we have Nathan, Connor, Dylan, and Taylor.
Who do we need?
Nathan, Dylan, and Taylor, we need you to the ring, please. And next, we're going to have Keeley, Jackson, and Taylor. We will need you back into the ring after this class, so please be in the holding area.
What do we need? Take. We need Connor.
There will be a 15-minute break between steers and heifers for picture time.
good useful cattle here once again, and I think actually there's some discussion amongst these four. The calf that fits me the best is the young man's red steer, and to me, from just a market fundamental standpoint, that calf's probably the furthest along just in terms of his fat cover. That calf has probably as much muscle as anything within here, and not to mention that's a big, high-performing kind of a steer that's got some growth and just some extra extension in him. A nice kind of a calf there that's going to go ahead and win this class. Young lady's horn steer that's going to come in second, that calf actually probably handles with just a little more width and just a shade more just punch there over his top. I really like just his stoutness of feature. I like his burliness. That calf to me maybe reads just a little harder there back in through his flank, and not to mention I don't know if he handles just quite as much or with quite as much just cover there over his last rib as what we get in that one that wins this class. But I think that pair's close. Those are really, really critical things to sort that pair on, and when we're kind of splitting hairs, if you will, between those two. That's just the way I see them. Congratulations to her. The young man's red steer that's going to come in third, that's a good, deep-bodied, easy feeding kind of a calf. He's got some shape through the base of his core.
We are currently waiting on Keely Morris. I see Mr. Jackson over there, and Taylor Thomas Tariq. We need you ready to go in. Following this class going in, we need Gage, Avery, Julia Johnson, Joseph Kinney, and Anna Vetter. If you guys could make your way to the holding ring, that would be just wonderful.
real nice class winner here that I think is just a good beef animal here. I think the yellow steer, that steer is more than sound enough structured. He's the best in terms of his body shape. He's the most correct from just a finish standpoint. And then on top of that, that's a show steer to come with it. I like where his neck sits in him, hip, and just some extra stoutness, a feature in that steer I think is pretty good. I like a lot of things about that calf. Congratulations to you, young man. Young lady's steer that's going to come in second, and I think there's some discussion between 2 and 3. To me, there's just so much more muscle in the steer that comes in second. He's actually pretty overwhelming in terms of the amount of shape that he's got back over his loin, right in behind his shoulder. That is just a really ripped up, hard-muscled kind of a steer that there's a lot of product in that calf. The downfall to him is, and where I think there is discussion, is we need to make him sounder. That steer needs to handle his hind leg just a shade better. We need to set a bigger foot and a bigger heel, or a deeper heel underneath of that steer. But a calf that, again, I think just in terms of muscularity, that's why he ends up going second. Young lady's calf that's going to wind up in third. As much performance, as much stretch, as much grow as what we have in this particular class. As I said earlier, that calf's probably just a shade bigger than everybody else, but he still weighs the same, and the reason being is because there's not quite as much muscle, there's not quite as much power in that steer. We need to balance him up just a shade better from the side. Congratulate those 3 exhibitors again, if you would, please.
First place in that class goes to Jackson Seibert. Second place goes to Keely Morris, and third place goes to Taylor Thomas Tariq. Coming into the ring is Gage Avery, Julian Johnson, Joseph Kinney, and Anna Vetter. In the holding ring, we need Gage Avery, Connor Price, Dylan Price, and Adeline Thompson.
My job on a day-to-day basis is setting up livestock judging classes and logical classes, and I will tell you that this class is probably not one that I'd set up to train a judging team on, because I think this one actually has some challenge, and you can develop a couple different arguments within this class. The young man's orange steer for me adds up the most amount of good. I'll be the first to tell you that I think that calf has too much shoulder. I wish we could tuck the point of his shoulder in just a little bit and set him back in his knee, but I think that calf, as far as angularity of his shoulder, how he collects his top line and how he handles his hind leg, I think is appropriate. I think the terminal kind of show, and that calf has as much muscle, he has as much substance and just as much power as anything, and still combines it into what I would say is close to a show steer package is what we have in here. A good calf that I'm excited to see how he stacks up here in just a little bit. Young man's a big black steer that's going to come next. A calf that I think they've done an outstanding job of getting him presented and getting him ready. That calf is probably the best in terms of his body shape, and I like him better than the one that wins in the sense that he's laid in smoother there right at the edge of his shoulder. So we get him set in a motion that calf will want to pull up in his spine just a little bit. That calf has a little nickel too much chest for me, and for as big and as burly as he looks like there from the side, I wish we could actually put more shape right through his stifle and his lower quarter. The black and white steer that comes next, that calf, he probably has as many tricked out pieces as probably anything in class, where that calf's neck sits on top of his shoulder angle is still correct, I think is really neat. I love the bend and the flex to his knee. That calf, if you study just the levelness out through his hip and how he utilizes his rear leg there, once again, I think is very, very appropriate. For me, amongst those top two, that calf's the flattest there in terms of his forerib. He doesn't offer quite the same amount of just dimension and openness down his top, and doesn't work quite as much product there down his top as what we get there within those top two. But if you wanted to move him up in class because he's tricked out and there's some neat pieces in that steer, I full-heartedly understand, and that's where I think it actually gets rather tough. The young lady's blaze face that's going to come next, another one that I think actually has some challenge to him, a calf that I don't necessarily want to put forth because I think he's shapely. That calf actually has more just fat cover there over his rib than what I truly expected when he first came in, and when that young lady gets him propped up, he balances, he lines out. When we get him in motion, that steer's too straight and up through his shoulder and down through his knee. He's got a little extra crest there over the top of his neck. I wish we could stouten him up in his jaw. And again, like I said, just make him a little sounder when we set him into motion. Like I said, those four calves I think have some challenge. I don't know if there is a right answer. That's the way I see them. If you would please congratulate those exhibitors on a tough class.
Do not let the kids in the ring at the moment. Please hold them. We have a white comb that's been lost. We're checking the ring so the steer doesn't accidentally step on it. Comb has been found. Crisis averted. Woohoo! Congratulations to Gage Avery on his class winning. Second place, Julian Johnson. Third place, Joseph Kinney. Fourth place, Anna Vetter. In this class, we have Gage Avery, Connor Price, Dylan Price, and Adeline Thompson. We need Joseph Kinney, Elizabeth Quick, and J.C. Vetter in the holding ring.
Nice class winner here again, and the main reason this big black steer wins is there's just the most of him, plain and simple. That calf, he's the best in terms of his body shape. That calf has as probably much stoutness and as much muscle and power as anything. He's a good carcass steer to put it short, but then on top of it, he's got some extra bone, some extra foot, and just some extra look and quality about him to go ahead and win and do so quite easily. Congratulations to that young man. Young man's red steer that's going to come next, and I think 2 and 3, there's some trade-offs there because I think there's both some skeletal width in those two cattle. To me, the red steer, he probably just lines out and balances up just a little better. That calf's cleaner and just a little fresher there over the top side of his neck, and his shoulder lays in him just a shade better. But a nice steer there, a good, useful kind that winds up in second. The calf that's going to come here in 3, that's a calf that, like I said, he's sound. That calf has some skeletal width in him. For me, from just a balance perspective, he's almost just a little bully looking. We need to just make his head just a little more attractive, the crest of his neck, and just have that calf line out just a shade better there from the side. In addition to that, he's probably just a shade bare for this stage in the game when you get your hands on him. But a nice steer. Young man's red steer that's going to come next. That calf, obviously, there's a lot of performance. There's some growth bred into that steer. But with that extra frame, he needs to couple that with just a little more muscle, just a little more power, and like I said, he's probably the barest finished one of this set. But a nice steer there for the young man that's done a good job growing. Congratulate those exhibitors once again.
Congratulations to Gage Avery. Second place goes to Connor Price. Third place goes to Adeline Thompson, and fourth place goes to Dylan Price. Currently coming in, we have Joseph Kinney, Elizabeth Quick, and J.C. Better. Following our market classes, we will have a 15-minute break before we begin our breeding classes. If you have a market steer and you are going to be in the carcass context, and have them ultrasound, do not, I repeat, do not break down your calves, as they will ultrasound at 1 p.m. I'm sorry, make that 2 p.m. We will ultrasound, and then you can break down your cattle.
market steer class. That's to me the question between those two. And I've said this a couple times here this weekend, that I don't know as if there is necessarily a right answer. My personal preference is in the black steer. That calf's just a little square and a little better there in terms of his foot. That calf is definitely sounder structured and just a little softer there in terms of how he handles his hind leg. I think that steer has enough muscle to go ahead